Dear Reader, recording number 7. On a Sunday, if that matters. Starting off at the library again, if that matters. I do think I've got my system in place now. Dear Reader is just the evolution of Dear Grace. Instead of reading news, I'll read out my own movie ideas if I have nothing to say about anything that's going on in my life, or the world, or the park, which at the moment is full of toddlers, 2 to 5. Age 2 to 5. In my opinion, Dear Grace was a beautiful love story, and I miss doing it. But I've realized, or figured it out, how to keep her memory alive. Every once in a while, I may throw a Dear Grace comment into Dear Reader. Not a full episode, maybe just a comment or two. I'll have to change it now to Dear Betty, so Dear Grace is dead, but I'll include a Dear Betty here and there. Because that's who I'm recording this for in the first place. Especially visions of little kids throwing a frisbee in the park. Pretty sure one kid's going to get bonked in the head. I can only hope. I need a laugh. Actually, for about 4 years old, this one kid's a pretty good thrower of a frisbee. There are no ugly babies at this park for some reason. I don't know if security stops them or what. That was a Dear Grace type joke, reader. Today's Sunday. If everything works out, I might have the system in place, which is to record one episode live, like what I'm doing right now, dump that transcript into the bottom of the document of transcripts or recordings that I'm still editing, and edit the next episode, and then finally, edit the next episode in the library, wherever I happen to be, or on my phone, in a coffee shop, doesn't really matter where I edit it, but edit the next episode, get it ready for publication, so to speak, and then find a place to record. In my case, I dump the transcript to my Kobo, and I read/record from the Kobo. And although it doesn't necessarily include the same intensity as the original recording, it's still pretty true to form. And ultimately, or hopefully eventually, this will flow into that's what I'm expecting it to. Some other ongoing characters from Dear Grace I'll bring forward to Dear Reader, especially the library parts. There's a guy. There's always a train in the background, first off. There's this guy who sits on a square bench and smokes pot, coughs his lungs out. He's a bit of a loser. I try and avoid him at all costs. He's on the square bench, I go sitting on the sitting bench. He's on the sitting bench, I go to the square bench. Pretty simple formula, really. And there's a group of fan floppers. Some Asian ladies that do a dance with fans. They like to flop them and slop them and incorporate them into their dance, I guess. So I think the original recording is going to be way better. Although to be fair, I'm kind of falling asleep in this room. Echo of my own voice is putting me to sleep. How exciting. Fuck it, as long as I get my $5, I don't care. I haven't really told the story of how I met Betty. I think what I'll do is explain it as I read out the movie idea. Actually, parts of it are already in the movie idea. So I'll just be truthful about which parts are true and which parts are bullshit, fiction, fantasy, make-believe, imaginary, etc. Fucking etc. I don't know why writers remove profanity if that's how they originally thought the thought. Podcasts, or at least maybe I can understand, or YouTube for some stupid reason. YouTube doesn't like faggot, doesn't like cunt, probably doesn't like retard. Luckily this won't be on YouTube, so I don't have to worry about any of that. Only available on Substack. Substack or fuck you. Substack for $5 a month. $2.40 a year, or $7.20 to be a founding member. Then I think it goes down to $2.40 a year after that. I'm actually preparing myself to read episode 1, or I guess recording number 1. So I might as well, since this is a day in the life, go through my entire process. It's going to consist of me taking a leak at the library, and then coming back out and reading. How exciting, I know. So normally I would say in a Dear Grace, Grace, I'll let you know how the reading goes. But really that doesn't really change for this reader. I'll let you know how this reading goes. In fact, this is even funnier, reader. Some of the running storylines that I'll bring to Dear Reader. Sorry, listener, that's a big-ass run-on paragraph. Some of the running storylines that I'll bring to Dear Reader. There are rats at the library. They scurry around from bush to bush. Also, there are rats in my backyard, or a rat, I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's more than one. I've never seen more than one at a time. There's also a rat by a place I used to smoke cigarettes. On a side note, last year, I temporarily got addicted to cigarettes. Throughout the summer, I blame Betty. Not saying she was encouraging me, but definitely wasn't discouraging me. And listener, if you're still wondering who Fritz is, he's my cigarette dealer. Cheap native smokes for $5 a pack. It's a little strange because I'm recording episode 7 I'm recording the first version of episode 7 after recording the final version of episode 1. So I have episodes 1 to 6 still rolling around in my head. I'm trying to manage, but ultimately it doesn't matter if I repeat it a little, because I can't assume every person's going to listen to every episode. Or I may just piss off someone early in an episode and they'll miss something important. I realized I haven't given a good explanation of the telepathy between Betty and myself, because I'm partly waiting to get to that part with the movie. Also, I'm just delaying it, since that's the most unbelievable part of this story. Dear reader or listener, remember the original first version of this recording? Oh, dear reader or listener, remember, the original first version of this recording is for sale privately or available to founding members. That includes you, Joe Rogan. You're a comedian, but you still have to pay because I took you off my shit list. Joe Rogan. But I still think you can afford $5 a month. Oh, then a bunch of extra money for the original recording. Think of it like a vinyl or master. I've been selling my masters for crack money, although I've never done crack. Nothing against it. By this episode, you've heard of my idea about this graduated psychedelic license. I just changed that to graduated substance license. First you learn and you get your booze badge. We could do it like the Boy Scouts. You get a booze badge, then you get your weed badge, you get your mushroom badge, etc., etc. I didn't get my weed badge until I was in my 40s. Now, as you can probably imagine, based on my philosophical outlook, and also based on the homelessness, no, not the homelessness, the housemate wanted dad, which again should have already been in a previous episode to this. This is good. This is like I'm living in the future, and I can just recall the past with clarity. I remember where to continue the story, and if I fuck up and start over a little bit, it doesn't really matter. On the day I will prove Betty to be real or false, either one, or real but not interested in me, would work too. Betty, the voice in my head, could be at the friend stage, and me being a lazy old fart, I'm at the end of my life stage. I'll throw myself in front of the next beautiful woman I see stage. Hope somehow she falls in love with me stage. By the way, Betty, sorry for saying it like that, but cute Chinese baby alert. Mom just caught me staring, but I don't care. What you gonna do? It's a public park. Really, I need a body cam for anyone who wants to see what I see. If you're rich, if you're listening and you're rich, send me the smallest body cam you got. I prefer the one where you can turn the red light off. And by the way, Betty, Chinese mom took Chinese baby over to the Chinese, I'd say Asian on that. Okay, fine. Let's go Asian baby. Ooh, rat. Trains and rats are the two things that'll stop my train of thought. The rat I just have to watch until he goes back into his bush. The train I have to wait for the screeching to fucking stop. A lot of train jokes I still have to make. Maybe we'll just create another tier, one tier higher, and you get the original recording, $50 a month. Fuck y'all. And then one more tier. Anyone who's listened to Dear Grace or any of my other movie ideas and hasn't commented, for you it's $500 a month. I'll take you off my shit list. than the special Joe Rogan price, $5,000 a month, but every other comedian in or around Jogan gets it for free. Jesus, sometimes you just... Why would they go on a motorcycle right at that exact time? Every time I want to fucking say something that's brilliant or important or concise or not silly and moronic, here comes a train, here comes a motorcycle, here comes a fire truck, here comes the cute baby. I really should just buy a month's supply of weed and nothing else and never leave my room. Month's supply of weed, month's supply of pizza and beer, and I just never leave. No interruptions, just my thoughts directly into your head, reader. Although, by the way, since I'm going to assume you've gone, I'm going to assume the reader's either read chapter 1 or listened to podcast episode 1 or reading recording, whatever the fuck this is called, number whatever 1, which means you've read or listened to the first scene of my movie where Morgan Freeman lists out a big long list of all the psi abilities that have yet to be proven, and I pick, or my character picks telepathy. I should say one of the main characters, David, picks telepathy. Well, no, the main character, David, picks telepathy, but nothing else, just one ability, I guess. I should probably just narrow that down. One ability of one person. I'm not sure if it's in the script or not, Grok. Make a note. In the movie script, we have to make it clear that David can only connect to Betty. Or in the script, it's Grace, but whatever. Although in real life, things like The Hill, talked about on the telepathy tapes, one day will be proven to be real, hopefully, and that opens up all sorts of other psi abilities. The funny and usual hypocritical part is, although I'm 99% sure of who I'm communicating to in my head, I don't necessarily believe others. When I'm dictating like this, I don't really care where my eyes go. I'm just looking to zone out and try and get into some almost meditative state of writing. Something that's just like getting stoned or high, but for me, originally to connect to Betty, or who I used to call Grace. And originally I called her Grace because I wasn't sure it was Betty. I just knew there was a female presence. And then by process of elimination and by analyzing our conversations, she was the only possibility. I could eliminate my family members, aliens, old friends, people who hate me or hated me, who will always hate me, people who died hating me, all dead people. Eliminate all of that. And the only person I couldn't eliminate was Betty. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be. But as I've said in previous episodes, I'm not sure how much I've said in previous episodes, but I'll say it in this one. Dear Betty is a beautiful romantic comedy, whether Betty or Grace are real or not. And I stand by my word that if Betty and I are not together in this world, then the only person I would consider would be someone that has listened to the entire Dear Grace podcast. I realized I was using it both as a writing exercise and a way to exercise my mouth, and a way to exercise my mouth will mute to the world. It's just like recording in the studio. It's a lot more echoey, I think. I have no idea what it sounds like because I never fucking listened to this. Oh, dear Grace, I would have just kept writing silly story ideas, or great story ideas like Joe Rogan, the JERE podcast number 3000. There's an entire movie in the Joe Rogan that's an entire movie set in the Joe Rogan studios. Again, it's way too long. Again, it's on another site, so I'm not going to read it out here, but I may put a link to it. And if you're wondering why I don't just monetize the other site, it's because I'm sick of the other site, and I don't care what happens there anymore. If people comment there, I don't care. Will I reply back? I don't know. I wish I could answer questions like that. Well, I hope that I hope the mic picked that up. That little boy, whatever the fuck he was singing. He got very shy afterwards and grabbed onto Grandma's leg. I need a body cam that auto blurs my own face, so I don't have to run it through YouTube. That's just how fucking lazy I am. But probably one of the first things I would buy, hell to be fair, I only need it if people don't believe me. If they believe me, a few photos off my phone should be enough. On the other hand, if aliens were to come and land right in front of me, and I had a body cam on, I'd have some great fucking footage. I'd send it to at Caspersite immediately. Exclusive. Him only. Get that motherfucker to 1 million subscribers. 4 days ago, he was at 947,000, I think. I think that's it for the part of this recording. I'll go get some plies. I think that's it for that part of this recording. I'll go get some plies, get something to eat, go home, finish filling out the applications, charge money for this podcast. Hopefully feel tired as fuck. I'm not anxious or angry as fuck, although to be fair, I guess I've got one show in print ready to go to the theater, so to speak. Hopefully the system works out well enough to be, I'm not expecting any, I don't expect fucking anything. I've learned not to get my hopes up over the last 5 years. I've been saying 4.5. I'm just going to bump it up to 5 because this fucking year is gone. And now I'm fucking pissed off about it. But don't worry. This year won't break my hand or anyone else's. On a more positive note, the Chinese baby is chubby as fuck. He's also ready to walk. He's dying to stand up. Actually, he's pretty wobbly, but I think that's just because he's chubby. That's a joke. Although I don't really need to say that anymore. Partially because I haven't sold any of the originals, so nobody can hear the tone of my voice in the original. All they're hearing is the tone of my voice when I read a slightly edited version of the original, with as much passion as I can put into it, even though I think I'm wasting my fucking time again. But what the fuck? Maybe that's how I should end this podcast. But what the fuck? Dave. I just think about what the body camera is. I could just start narrating any time. I would intentionally never forget a story. The bad thing is I'd probably never shut up. My only concern is I lose ideas sometimes when I'm walking and thinking too fast. I wish I trusted voice activation on my phone and go with that. But I tried that in the past, and that doesn't work. Bing long pauses work better. I don't have to edit them anyways. Today at the library, while I was editing and uploading, there's a homeless guy beside me. He was a little ripe, but not too bad. I kept taking peeks at his screen, and he was doing some research on micro-something-tiosis, something, and a few other sort of medical technical type terms. I didn't know what he was working on. It looked like he was putting it in a bigger document. He was homeless, definitely. A big-ass suitcase, duffel bag on top of that. Probably I'd say shelter homeless, not camping homeless. Campers normally have all their stuff at their campsite or hidden in the woods. It's probably better to send me pizza cards and body cams and cash, but because I'm on disability, I'll never make more than $500 more than what I'm receiving now from the government right now, unless I can make more. $2K a month. 2 to 4K is kind of pointless. The first 500 would be ignored. Anything more would be deducted off my monthly check. So I suppose I can make an argument that if I don't need that money before I use it myself, it's a business expense. Especially if I write about it. It's kind of where I was heading with the pizza cards. I had this idea before. It's on Dear Grace. It's all over my writing. This is just going to annoy me and piss me off. Not to explain this again to you, reader, but to be fair, Dear Grace was for Betty and others. Dear readers, who the fuck's going to pay me $5 a month? So I think there might be some founder thing you can do. I'm going to put that at the max. I don't know how much that is yet. $720. Actually, it's $999, but for some reason it keeps reverting to $720, and I like that number. Can't prove it yet, reader, but I'm pretty sure walking and talking is also a slightly different tone. Anyways, back to Walmart for my supper supplies. I'm starting to like this new format because I can be extra snarky in the first recordings, really let it go, knife in the ribs, so to speak. Then, as I actually do an edit, I can delete all the snarky comments while still getting them off my chest. Oh yeah, that's where I was heading. Whether you believe Betty or not, or you believe the imaginary friend scenario, or the way we, Betty and I, decided that it's okay for me to look at pretty girls, as long as I call them Grace in my head. Seems like a weird compromise, but if you think about it, at the time, I didn't know Grace was Betty or Betty was Grace. I just knew Grace was a generic, but a consistent person, or a consistent individual, but I couldn't prove the individual. Whereas I'm at 99% right now, back then I was probably at 50, 60, 70% at the most. And also, although Betty's more like a Siamese twin at the moment, back then she was more like a friend on your shoulder, like a miniature friend on your shoulder, like they show in the movies, but not a good devil and a bad devil, or not a devil and an angel, or whatever. Just one person, Grace, Betty, or an alien from another planet. This is the Truman Show. They've been purposely sending in actors, father and daughter teams, especially the last couple of days. Whatever, bring it on. I realize that sounds like a crazy person. I realize that may sound like a crazy person to you, reader. God damn, I'm at a noisy intersection. I realize that may sound like a crazy idea. I'm still transitioning. Fucking trains. I'm still transitioning from Dear Grace to Dear Reader, and I haven't got my full comic chops going, as they like to say, as the cliche goes. Back at home, a couple of quick jokes before I forget them. Just one advantage of having a new podcast is I can reuse old material, and now it's even at an appropriate time. Episode 1, I forgot to use a joke 4, or the homeless joke, poor joke, welfare joke, whatever you want to fucking call it. Near the end of the month, it becomes tap and pray, not tap and pay at the debit machine. Pray that you have the funds. That's one joke to keep forgetting to make. That's one joke I keep forgetting to make. The second joke is, I walk back from the transit station to my house. It's always a game of will there or won't there be a drug addict right around the transit electrical building. There's a little path that you walk down, and at the end of the building, under the tracks, often guys are shooting up there. Not always, but quite often. Enough to make it a game. It's scary when you're coming from the station to the house, because it's a surprise when you come around the corner of the building. Whereas, if you come from the house to the station, if they're there, you can see them through the bushes before you even walk up to the path to get close to the station. On another note, John took the air conditioner out, so I guess summer's officially over, and I'm fucked. So I was pretty sure by the end of summer something would fucking change, but it clearly fucking hasn't. I should clarify, there are more than 3 pretty girls in my house. The reason I said it that way, I was thinking of the 3 single pretty girls, not the married ones. I probably shouldn't use the term pretty. I should probably just say normal. Attractiveness. Like I said about Iris in the movie script, but pretty girl makes it sound like I'm living in the Playboy Mansion, which is the image I'm trying to project into your feeble little minds. I really like this freedom. Take one for you to say whatever the fuck you please, give it a little edit, talk rock through all the cunts and faggots, and then do a little edit. Read it out a couple of days later, and it's time to digest, so to speak, and then regurgitate. If you like Dear Grace, listener, think of this as a new original recording as Dear Grace, where David really doesn't give a shit. I think 10 episodes will be my limit. If I have 0 subscribers or less after 10 episodes, fuck it. Just another dumb idea. And I guess David is just another dumb idea. Fuck it, just another dumb idea. I guess David is the ever pessimist or ever critic, and Betty is the ever optimist, or ever whatever the opposite of a critic is. Most movie reviewers would be considered critics too, although not necessarily if they like the movie. Alright, I'm going to say Betty is the reviewer, David is the idea generator, Betty is the reviewer. Says whatever she needs to say to get David out of his funk, or show him his brilliance in his logic. This is interesting, listener. There's a hawk in the tree outside the window about 30 feet away from me. Maybe even 25. Motherfucker's staring at me. Outside it's a crows. Inside it's a hawk. As an example, David says something like, if we don't get together soon, give your mom some grandbabies, she's going to be mad at us. To which Betty replies, she have She has plenty of grandbabies and grandnephews and grandnieces in her life. And if we have ours a little later, it's like this second coming for my parents, and yours too, and your family. At which point David will say something snide like, whatever. I guess that's not only a day in the life of Dave, it's a conversation in the life of David and Betty. I've done a shitty job of documenting the last half of my day. I'll try and do better. Today there's a photo down below of a pizza, or a super pizza. It's a $4 frozen pizza, 6 hot dogs cut up on top, a bunch of extra cheese, pizza, sauce, mozzarella. An extra piece of sauce, basically a deep dish pizza. Again, I'm not looking for sympathy. It's actually delicious as fuck. Simply documenting a day in the life of a near homeless person. Never really completed the idea of the weight loss drug where you have to take more in the beginning and less at the end. So basically for it to work, you have to consume a lot. It's uncomfortable at first, as long as you start. But as you start losing weight, you don't have to consume as much of the medicine because it's less and less uncomfortable. By the time you're in your perfect six-pack body, you're almost taking zero medication, or maybe a microdose. And then when you've achieved physical perfection, the drug no longer works. If you take it, it makes you sick, at which point you can slowly start to get fat again. Or if you want, just enjoy your newfound body for the rest of your life. The name of this miracle drug, this miracle fat loss revolution, we'll call it Dave and Betty's Secret Elixir, because that's about as original as I feel, for $5 a month. The original audio recording, the original audio recording on this episode is at about 1 hour and 6. With all that dead air, it's probably 45 minutes, which isn't enough. So I'll read the next scene in the School of Comedy, or part of it, or 15 minutes worth, or whatever I feel like. Interior doctor's office, day 28 years earlier. The scene is from Iris's point of view, a 1-month-old baby, with only her voiceover audible, no other sounds. Iris, voiceover. Hello, I'm Iris. My father David asked me to narrate this section of the movie. This is my story. I was born with the ability to remember nearly every day of my life, at least every important day. I'm not sure if others possess this ability or not. Generally, when I try and explain my abilities, I'm dismissed. However, my father and mother are aware. I'm just going to read the Iris voiceovers. For some reason, I don't feel like reading the rest of the script. Iris voiceover. Iris, one of my earliest moments is when I was barely a month old. My mother, Christina, and Dad are in the doctor's office. Earlier, they had poked and prodded me with a bunch of gadgets, I guess trying to see if I can hear. I could have saved them from the trouble. If I could talk, no, I couldn't hear. I'm watching the doctor explain options for the deaf, schools, future possibilities, etc. Dad is listening, but I can see the wheels turning in his head. He's trying to cure me before I've been diagnosed. Mom is crying, gently, not bawling. Dad holds her hand, but looks at the doctor, and then at me, not Mom. It would be remiss not to describe my parents physically, so at least I know how my father writes, and will indulge his humor. My father is an incredibly handsome 30-something male. My mother is an extremely pretty 20-something young woman. They're both stunning, but I came out normal, run-of-the-mill, average-looking. I am, however, more interesting because of my deafness. The doctor explains the options to my parents. I see the sadness in their faces, and I wish I could say it's okay. I'm okay. As I recall this almost 30 years later, I'm not sure if I'm projecting my thoughts or remembering my thoughts. I'm not sure it matters, as the emotion feels the same. Somehow, even as a 1-month-old, I knew about senses, maybe not the term hearing, but I knew what they were trying to communicate with me when I was with them. However, I had zero control over my body. What can I do? I was a baby. It's more like an iris stream of consciousness. Iris voiceover. On the way home that day, my mother saw Dad. My mother saw Dad didn't stop the car. He drove at the same looking determination on his face. Look I've seen several times throughout my life. It really means get the fuck away from me. In this instance, it was, I'll do anything to help Iris meet. We arrived home that day, and while I put myself in the bouncy chair to entertain myself, my mother continued to snivel, and my dad started storming around the house, looking for a solution to my deafness to appear. My mom knew better than to answer his questions. It was, and I assume, still his way. Actually, I'll back that one up there, listener. David notices a book, How to Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons, sent by his sister. David shouting, how the fuck can I teach her to read if I can't read the book out loud to her? Iris, voiceover. My mom knew better than to answer his questions. It was, and I assume, is still his way. Then, as clear as day, I remember my dad looking me in the eyes and saying, don't worry, sweetheart. You'll read, you'll talk, you'll speak, you'll be heard. The next day, my father began learning and teaching me and my mom ASL. The next day, my father began learning and teaching me and my mom ASL. Within a month, I had a vocabulary Iris. Within a month, I had a vocabulary of a 1-year-old. In 3 months, I could have basic conversations with anyone regarding my life, but I wasn't quoting Shakespeare. At the time, we lived in a small community of 15,000 people with a deaf community of about 10, 8 adults and 2 teenagers. My parents realized it would be nearly impossible for me to integrate without a school specifically for the deaf. When we moved to the city, it would be more easily accepted. Interior City Apartment, day, age 2. Iris. By age 2, I can sign proficiently, and I was surrounded by other kids and families with the same issues. We began to settle into routine until one day after a birthday party for a deaf friend. On the way home, Dad had that same look in his face. Something was up. Because I couldn't hear, I couldn't read lips, but I could see theirs moving. I knew what that meant. 90% of the time, my parents talked to each other verbally and with ASL simultaneously, partially to practice and to show me the urge to show me However, when they didn't sign, I knew something was up. They were talking about me or something over my head. I remember them and asked them to sign. I interrupted them and asked them to sign. They never told me to wait before. This was important. Then, listener, there's a bunch of shit about David creating a secret language. Don't feel like reading any of this anymore. Just going to finish the voiceover Iris parts. This day I remember clearly. After they started signing, Dad turned to me and said, we're going to create a secret language. Iris, voiceover. I answered yes, and over the next year, the three of us created our own language. We didn't name it for some reason. I'm not sure why. My parents let me pick all the new signs. The only stipulations they had were subtle is better. It included enough ASL looking signs to confuse others. Other than that, anything goes. Faking nose pick, ear tug, even a fart. The farting was my dad's idea, of course, probably because he can fart on demand. Iris voiceover. Within a year, the basics of our secret code were in place. New words could be added almost on the fly. However, the genius in our language was not the words, it was the emotion we managed to add to a symbol in our language. With a slight twist of a sign, or the look in the eyes of a person sending the sign, it could change the meaning significantly. I'm hungry can be I'm really hungry, a little hungry, or super fucking hungry with a wink. Alright, I think I'll end this episode there, because the scene goes on and on and on, and I think that's enough for this end recording. It's 35 minutes, perfect. End recording, David J.